Hello, everyone. I hope you have had another great week and are looking forward to another fun day of science and social studies. For social studies today, that's what this video is about. We're going to be learning about archaeologists here in a few minutes. For science, you're going to have a science test today. I posted a video for you that is a review. You can go on and watch the review video. You can also go back and watch any of the other videos I've posted. And then when you feel comfortable, you can go and take the test. It should be fairly easy. It's over the scientific method, science tools, and science safety. All right. But now let's do some social studies. So we talked about how social studies and history is the story of the past. And in social studies, we're learning about that story, and there are many ways that we learn that story. One way that we learn the story is through archaeologists. Archaeologists, they find artifacts that are buried in the earth to help tell the story of history. So today, what you're going to do is you're going to use this paper here. It'll actually be a PDF for you guys that you can type on and fill in your notes as needed. All right, so that'll be another posted assignment besides this video here, where you can open it and then you can type on the PDF and fill in your notes. All right, so I'm going to go through with you guys and read our textbook. That's what these notes come from. And as I read, you're going to have to listen for each of these things to see how to fill it in. As I read, though, the one question I want you to learn or be thinking about is, how do people learn about prehistoric people if they did not write anything? That's this first question here. We're going to skip that to start with and do these. Once we have filled all of this out, you can go back and answer that question. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Let me get to the correct page. This way. Okay. This is lesson 1 on archaeologists. So, first thing you're going to be listening for is a word that describes a period of time before history was written down. The people you will read about in this chapter are all native to North America. Native means born in a place. We do not have written records about the very first people who lived here. They lived before history was written down. This is why we call them prehistoric. So it describes the time before history was written down. That's prehistoric. Many experts who study humans and where they come from have divided Ohio into Ohio's prehistoric past into 4 periods. These periods are called the Paleo-Indian, Archaic Woodland, and Late Prehistoric. Each period is known for particular changes in day-to-day life. Many experts believe that the first people to live in North America walked here from Asia. People used a land bridge that connected the continents during the last ice age. The ice age was a time when Earth was very cold. Layers of snow and ice piled up, forming glaciers. Since most of the ocean was frozen, people could walk to places we no longer can. These first people to cross the bridge are called Paleo-Indians. All right. That's just a little bit of background about what we're going to be learning about with Native Americans in the coming weeks. But now this part here is where we really get to the notes that you're going to be taking. All right. So listen up. This is about archaeologists. The first people who lived in Ohio left no written records about their lives. However, they did leave behind primary sources that tell us how they lived. So that next blank, the first people who lived in Ohio did not leave written records, but they did leave primary sources. All right. They left artifacts and burial sites. Get ready. That's going to be the next one. You're going to have to write down examples of what kind of artifacts they left behind. They left rock art, stone and ceramic pots, tools, and clothing. Those are your next 4 blanks. Experts who examine clues, learn how people lived in the past are called archaeologists. So archaeologists are experts who examine clues and learn how people lived in the past. That will be the next blank you'll be filling in. Most ancient artifacts are buried in the earth. Over time, layers of sand and dirt have covered them. Archaeologists must dig slowly and carefully. Yeah, that's lost in the sentence. Okay. So ancient artifacts are buried in the earth, and archaeologists must dig slowly and carefully, to find them. Buried and dig, those are your next two blanks. All right. They try not to break the bones are artifacts that will help them to learn about the past. The next blank is right there. What could happen if they dig too fast? Said right there, they could break the bones or artifacts if they dig too fast. Most of the work of an archaeologist is slow and not very exciting. Slow and not very exciting. Those are your next two blanks. But every now and then, an amazing discovery is made. Instead of finding only ashes, an archaeologist finds human bones. Human bones are the last blank there, right? Now, how do we know? The first evidence that humans lived in America during the Ice Age was discovered in 1926. A man in New Mexico noticed some bones sticking out of the ground. The bones were much larger than those of cows or any other animals. The bones belonged to a type of bison that lived during the Ice Age. Men began searching the site and found mammoth bones with spearheads in them. The researchers knew that the Ice Age hunters had killed the animals. Researchers also found wooden shafts from spears and scrapers used to clean the animal hides. There are sites like these all over North America. All right. So there weren't any notes from that last little part, but it's a little bit, it helps you to see how how archaeologists are able to uncover the past. They dug up these bones and noticed there were spearheads in them and figured, oh, something had to be here to kill the bison with spearheads. It must have been the Native Americans. And they used that knowledge to realize that there were people that lived here during the Ice Age. All right. So that is your notes for today. I have a short PowerPoint for you guys that I'm going to go through here in just a second once I pull it up. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. Sharing. It's still loading. Give it a second. There we go. Okay. Excuse me. What do all of the artifacts tell you about Native Americans? So this PowerPoint is going to have several different artifacts in it that we're going to have to look at and determine what it might tell us about Native Americans. The first of them being these arrowheads. So as you all know, arrowheads are used for hunting. So if an archaeologist was digging, they would, and they dug up an arrowhead, it would help them to understand that tribe of Native Americans used arrowheads as a form of hunting, or they were hunters instead of gatherers, meaning that they went out and killed their food instead of gathering it with by finding berries and fruit and that kind of thing. All right. The next up is tools. We see several different tools here. Some you might recognize, some you may not. I want you to focus on this tool right here. At the bottom, there's going to be a question that pops up. I want you to tell me what kind of tool you think it is. Okay. This is what looks to be an axe. It probably was used to cut down trees, to chop wood, for fires, much like we would use an axe today. Next up, we have a cool moccasin. All right. If you don't know what a moccasin is, or even if you already know what a moccasin is, at the bottom, there's going to be another question. Tell me what you think moccasins are. Okay. These moccasins are shoes. Native Americans wore them as we wear shoes today to protect their feet. Now, I titled them cool moccasins because these are they look very thin. You look over here, you can kind of see the side of it. It looks like a very thin moccasin that Native Americans would have used in the summer when it was really hot. The next moccasins, however, I titled warm moccasins because if you look, they are covered with fur. These would be more of a style that they would have worn in the winter to help keep their feet warm, much like we wear snow boots today when you go out and play in the snow. The next artifact here is a canoe. Once again, down at the bottom, I'm going to throw up a question. I want you to tell me what you think this canoe was used for. Okay, so this canoe could have been used for many things, just like we use canoes today. They could have been used for fishing, they could have been used for travel, they could have been used for hunting, or even just like we do today, going down to Mohican and floating on the river on a canoe just to have a relaxing day. They could have used the canoes for enjoyment and relaxation as well. All right, this is an atlatl. I want to know if any of you know what an atlatl is. So again, there's going to be a question at the bottom. Go ahead and fill that out. All right. An atlatl was a tool that was used for hunting. What the Native Americans would do is they would put the end of a spear right here, and then they would use this to throw the spear. This made it so the spear would get moving faster and travel straighter. It was a better way for them to throw the spear than just to hold it with their hand and throw it. It just worked better for them. All right, next up is a bow and arrow. We all know what bows and arrows are. If you were to find this in an old archaeologist, I guess a new archaeologist dig would be too, but any sort of archaeologist dig, if you were to find a bow and arrow, this would help you or any archaeologist to understand that, hey, these Native Americans who lived here used bow and arrows to hunt or fish, or I don't know why they would use bow and arrows to fish, to hunt or fight with. Next up is baskets. Again, at the bottom, tell me what you think they might have stored in these baskets. All right. And just like we do today, there were many different things they could have stored in these baskets. They could have collected berries with them. They could have used them as decoration in their homes. Anything really. When archaeologists find these, it helps them to learn how Native Americans were able to build baskets that they used in their everyday life. The next thing is a bowl. Once again, I want to know what you think that the Native Americans used. If you were an archaeologist, what would you say that the Native Americans used this for? Just like the basket, a bowl would have of Native Americans would have very similar uses as it does today. It could be used for mixing items to cook. Could be actually used to cook over fires with, to wash clothes in. Native Americans didn't used to have washing machines. So sometimes they would go down to rivers and use bowls like this to wash their clothes in. Archaeologists know this because they have found them by rivers with pieces of clothing left in them. There are many different things that this bowl could have been used for. That's just a couple examples. And the last thing here, this is called the Serpent Mound. It's in southern Ohio. What I would like for you to do is I want you to tell me at the bottom with another question what you think this mound was. Okay, this is an archaeologist mystery. Archaeologists aren't exactly sure what this was used for. They have done this type of radio digging where they're able to look into the ground and see what's under it without actually digging it up. And they weren't able to find any sort of human remains, bones, that kind of thing in this mound. However, there were mounds near it that they did find human bones in. So they think it might be for some sort of ceremonies used in connection with the burial grounds that are close by. But To this day, they're still not exactly sure what this was used for. They have many guesses, not positive. If you're interested in this, however, one day you could grow up to be an archaeologist and you could be the one that would discover what this mound was used for. And that would be really cool, because then I could tell my students in the future that, hey, I taught a student I taught the archaeologist who found out what this mound is for. All right, let me stop sharing quick. We will wrap up. Okay, so that is just a little bit of information about archaeologists. Archaeologists help to tell the story of the past, just as timelines do, just as biographies do, anything that we've already talked about. We're just adding to the story of the past with our archaeologists. Next week, we're going to get into Native Americans more, and we'll talk more about how archaeologists have dug up different remains and artifacts from Native American sites that help them to learn how the Native Americans lived. You guys, good luck on your science test if you have not already taken it. Other than that, you have a great weekend.